Hi, I'm Jay, and today we're tying perch jigs using calf tail. Stay tuned. So, good morning. Today's a little bit later than usual, and just making sure we got everything on. I'm at the bench. Thought I would turn the cameras on. Tying with material that I haven't tied with much recently, and thought I would just turn everything on. We're tying a very simple jig for perch using calf tail. Nothing fancy about these, though you can dial them up using a little bit of flash, maybe some crystal chenille for a collar, maybe some crystal flash for some tail, etc. But for this customer, just a very simple basic jig. It will be a two-color jig, though it is quite tiny. Let's switch over real quick. So we'll turn the vise on and we'll turn my face on. And what I'm putting in the vise right now is a 1/32, what I call a football head. It's very similar to an ice fishing jig. It has a very simple minnow profile. The hooks in these are Mustad 32762, and I'm tying both 1/16, which look like this. This is the 1/16. The nose is a little bit more pronounced and pointed. Most certainly that minnow profile. And the 1/32 has the rounded nose. But they both have a Mustad 32762 number 8 hook. And this is an order for a very, very old customer. A guy that I see every couple of years. He'll buy 3 or 4 dozen of this specific color, and then he uses them all up and he comes back. So we begin with an orange 2-aught round nylon thread. This is just a regular Danville thread. You can also use brown for this color combination, would look okay, or black would look fine. What we're doing today is a green and orange, and I have 2 calf tails here. Just a nice, Irish green, Kelly green, forest green, whatever you want to call it, and just a nice bright orange. This calf tail is actually pretty nice. The hairs on it are quite long, though if you have a tail where the hairs are real short because of the size of this jig, when I have those types of tails, I set them aside specifically for jigs that are smaller. There is a little bit of under hair. There seems to be a layer of short hairs on this tail, so my pinch seemed a little big when I first took it, but as I pull out these half-length fibers, it thins it out quite nicely. And then I just don't stack necessarily because the hairs are all fairly uniform, but I do take out the few hairs that are kind of sticking out, a little bit unruly. And for this jig, the tail will be the length of the body past the bend of the hook, and because of the size of this hook, I have to clamp it in forward on my vise. And then if we measure from the edge of the jig head itself to the bend of the hook. Past that distance is almost to that third dot that's on my vise. So that's what we're aiming for, somewhere between the second and third dot on the vise to keep everything uniform. I've already done a couple dozen of these. I have to do 3 dozen of each size, 1/32, 1/16, and I will be doing some 1/8 as well. So once we are happy with our length, I switch my grip one last time, keep this pinch tight, and locking this into place. Couple wraps towards the bend of the hook, couple wraps crisscrossing back towards the head to lock that in place. And I just give it a twist, moving the green, which is our darkest color, to what becomes the back of the jig as we're fishing it. In this orange tail, the hairs are very similar, fairly straight, relatively, compared to other calf tails. Sometimes calf tails are quite short and wiry, very kinky. There are a couple pieces on this where restacking is necessary, but for the most part, calf tails, you find all the hairs to be fairly uniform, and they require very little restacking. And again, we just measure against the green, and I'm putting my left hand right here so I can see the tips of the tail against my finger, just to make sure that both of them are the same length. Switch my grip one last time and keep this tight. And then a few wraps towards the bend of the hook, and I walk the thread back up towards the head. Now there are a couple sections here, you see the green maybe sticking through, but we're going to correct that when we finish our head, because I usually take a loop of size 8 thread of an opposite color and whip finish it as so. These heads are small enough where you could use a whip finish tool, that would work just fine, but I like to use touching wraps, walk the thread down about halfway, walk the thread back up towards the head of the jig, just to help shape that collar into a nice cone shape. It follows the profile of the jig head from wide at the nose to thin towards the body of the jig, and this helps create a nice minnow profile. Now you can add flash to this, like I mentioned, a chenille to the collar. You could add crystal flash to the tail. You can tie the tail on, is just Flashaboo fibers would look just fine and work just fine. But I think for perch, this jig in all the different sizes, what I call a football head, it's that minnow profile, so it's got that shape to it that is very, very minnow-like. I think that's really what the fish are keying in at this time of year. What these are for is mostly for the end of the summer. The customer that asked for these specifically is fishing mid to late August into September, and all the way until, I think he fishes, he's a big time perch fisherman, and he fishes I think right up until about deer season, and then he's busy during hunting season, of course. But this is the color that he sticks with. The green and orange he swears by. I do like a lot of these natural colors, especially in the fall. And though this jig will work for most any panfish, we're fishing specifically perch here in central New York. I like other colors that I like: brown and white, brown and yellow, olive, any combination with olive. I'm a big fan of an olive painted head with olive and cream calf tail, olive and white if you can't find that cream color, olive and fluorescent yellow, olive and orange, olive and brown. We've had some success with olive and black. But as you can see, these jigs go quite quickly. Does take a little bit of coaching to twist the hair around. We do put those wraps on fairly snug, and there isn't much to grab onto. So as you can see, it did take me a couple tries just to kind of grab it and twist it. I don't want to pull any of the hair out. I don't want to bend the hair around the shank of the hook. I want it to roll without I'm forcing it, but at the same time I want it to roll without much force. I'm coaxing it along. So I'm just thinning this pinch out just a little bit. It's a little bit wide. Again, just looking at the tips of the tail right up against the skin on my finger, just so I can see the tips and make sure that they're all uniform. They look the same length as the green. Get this in place. A few wraps towards the bend of the hook, a few wraps back towards the head. And these are touching wraps. They can be slightly open because you do make a pass or two, but we're trying to lay the thread wraps side by side, touching wraps. Here we go, a few wraps back towards the bend of the hook, and then touching wraps back up to the collar, or to the head of the jig. When I snip this tag end, I always have tension between my hand and the jig. It doesn't matter which hand as I switch hands, but you want to maintain tension between your hand and the jig so your collar stays nice and tight. And then I just pick up the green and center it on the hook point. And there we have it. Very simple green and orange calf tail jig. I will tie up a couple, have some pictures at the end of the video. Some of those other sizes, the 1/16 might have a couple 1/8, but I'll also maybe do a couple variations with what do we got here on the table? We have some crystal hair, which is also crystal flash. Basically, a very the same type of material. We have some New Age crinkle flash, something like that maybe. But I'll see what I got. Maybe a little bit of flash chenille, but I'll do up a couple examples and also include those at the end of the video. But I think that will do it for us today. If you haven't already, check out the website, jworthhandtied.com. I've had a great summer, so some of the bucktails quantities are a little bit low, but each day I'm going in trying to add some new jigs along with keeping up with the quantities on the jigs that we have posted over the last few months. But check that out, jworthhandtied.com. And I think that will do it. As always, like and subscribe so you don't miss any new content. Add some comments down below if you have ways that you would dial up this jig, make it a little bit flashy, or let us know other species of fish that you would use this for. This color combination, this jig size, this jig profile type. Put those comments down below. But I think that'll do it. Until next time, guys, keep tying and tight lines.